Welcome everybody to this week's Suse QA Tools workshop. I've started the recording and I will share the wiki page showing the plan, the agenda for today, and then we will start with the content. So, let me go to the workshop topics. Today is the Suse QA Tools roadmap at the state of May 2021. We do that every first Friday of every month, where we present an overview of recent achievements, the midterm plan, what is currently going on and what we will do soon, and a future outlook. And in every step, you are very welcome to provide your feedback about recent changes that you have seen in the products that you use. If you have ideas or comments for the plan as well as the outlook, ideas, wishes, confirmations, all of that. So to present recent achievements, I will just use the very same wiki page and describe or show the tickets which we have closed, and based on that we can very shortly mention individual things. If you want to learn more about the individual features, then for important features we have individual workshop topics, but also in general everyone is invited to also participate in our team's weekly meetings where we demo according things whenever we have recently finished them. This query by default shows the class within the last 60 days because we actually managed to have consistent presentation every month. This is why I can change that filter to say last 30 days. I don't know if that is exact, but you know, roughly the time from the last time we had presented something. Starting with the short overview. So when we take a look on the different categories of the tickets that we have done, then we can see in total 71 tickets that we have solved, which meets our previous velocity, which is a bit more than a bit more than 2 tickets per day. And actually, I think it's higher than normal. But keep in mind that this is just like all closed tickets. That differs a bit per category. In the last period, we had a bit more focus on bugs. Now we see that there was a slight shift again towards more features. Let's start with the smallest categories. There's always some support work in the corresponding ticket, if not already handled over various chat channels, email, other social networks as well. There are 3 organizational tickets. So maybe you have also heard the news about a security problem related to CodeCarve. So we were also affected by that. We handled that. And another thing I would like to mention, because this is related to a feature request, is that in just last week's workshop, we have reminded about the use of OpenQA review in squads. This was mostly used by the former Suse QA's lead team, and in QAM, Suse QAM, this wasn't used. So we wanted to remind about the use cases that OpenQA review does offer, for example, to give rather complete snapshot reports at a given time of all interesting OpenQA test results, like the failed ones and soft failed ones, as well as skipped ones, not counting all the past ones which don't demand any further work. And based on that, then we can also work on specific feature requests. If someone comes up like, okay, we try to use OpenQA review now, can you add this or that? Then bugs in existing tests I'd like to mention because there's just one. So yeah, there was an error in run LTP, which is actually OS Audience Distri OpenSUSE, so not our main product, but we helped and supported there. Blank, this is from mostly the infrastructure project. So one thing in particular I would like to, two things I would particularly like to mention. One is that within OpenQA SUSE DE, especially for the maintenance job groups, we had the OpenQA Investigate jobs disabled. And there were various problems mentioned why the common reviewers see problems with the use of that feature. And we tried to address all of these problems. And one big problem that was left was that there's a black certificate icon showing up on OpenQA, depending on the availability of comments, labels, and bug refs. And that is now changed to reflect what the to-do filter on the test overview page also does, which is only if all to-do entries are solved. That means all unhandled or unreviewed jobs have a label or a proper bug ref, not just a plain comment, then the black certificate icon shows up. That means we did enable the OpenQA Investigate job also now for the maintenance job, so for the people that ask for it. I hope that this can help you. So what you can expect is in unhandled failed jobs which do not have any label already, no label carried over, and also when auto review does not automatically provide a label, then there are automatic investigation jobs spawned which cross-check the test results against the last good state of tests against the last good state of the product, as well as a combination of two, plus a plain retry. So with the combination of all of these, then you should be easily able to decide, is that a test regression, is it a product regression, or is it a problem in the infrastructure? And then there are multiple problems about our Power VM worker. So for example, this one is related, this one is related, this one is related, this one, and likely more. So what we found there is actually a regression in grub, which interfered with the way the bootloader configuration is passed, meaning that the machines ended up not being able to boot automatically. So we solved that nearly a month ago. That means that now all the machines work again with being able to properly reboot. First, we did apply that as a workaround in our infrastructure, and by now a bug fix, which we also provided as a SLE maintenance submit request, was accepted, also merged to SLE and our leap workers, and this is why we don't need that workaround anymore. So much about infrastructure. Now I'd like to mention some concrete bugs that we missed. Yeah, so this was a regression that we caused ourselves. Let me see what else could be interesting to work. Yeah, we identified SID. So this was thanks to Armin in the Discord channel of OpenQA. That person asked, like, does eject CD work? Because I suggested that test API call to that person, and it turned out that in most cases this does not work. So this is why I created a ticket to cross-check if that actually works, and with the help of Marius, we managed to actually fix it because it was broken. We don't use that within OS Audience Distri OpenSUSE anywhere, so this is why it wasn't realized for such a long time. Yeah, we did apply some stabilization to the container Docker Compose as well as the container infrastructure that we are in the process of building up. This is why it's listed under concrete bugs. And now about feature request. So I already mentioned that feature that now the to-do query in test overview behaves just the same as the black certificate, or I must say the black certificate now behaves the same as the to-do flag behaved in before. That means it looks as necessary labels on jobs. A second thing is that providing an OpenKey API, what jobs are testing a certain incident, that's nomenclature within Suse QA maintenance processes, as well as a certain package. So we cross-checked what the API of OpenQA does deliver. We were investigating options of where our API could be extended, but for now we decided that actually the API is capable of delivering all that. So we have in that ticket provided comments, and I think Ivan mainly cross-checked with George from QM perspective to cross-check that this delivers all that is necessary to find all the tests which are linked to a certain incident or package. Right.
Maybe a related point. So just
Yep.
just wondering, but maybe people would be interested in a future session about API routes, calls like that, if that's useful. Just an idea, but if there's interest, I'm sure we can do a session about that as well.
It Yeah, there's a +1 in chat. So I think that it's a good idea to have an OpenQA API playground to get a bit more proficient for, let's say, the not beginner users, but the ones already experienced, and so some kind of tips and tricks, and maybe that can also hopefully lead to you coming up with certain use cases that you would like to cover with the API. Yeah, Anton?
See, that's a yeah.
So I don't know if I get you right, but it feels to me like you are not actually sure how API can be extended, and from your point of view, it already sufficient and cover all use cases.
And I think in reality, both cases are true, that the API does offer more than people know. That's just natural, that there are some things which an API might be capable of doing and people don't know that yet. And on the other hand, it's also correct that we are open to extend the API where it makes sense and where we see a use case which cannot be already covered.
I just don't remember it out of my head now, but I remember that yeah, I was need some flow, and I realized that actually this part is not covered fully. But now I cannot state exactly what was said, so I would try to um, get this cache from my head
Yeah,
somehow, and yeah, and we'll come to you, or I don't know, open a ticket. And also the session anyway would be nice, because I think I like how you stated it now, that yeah, maybe the main problem that the current features which OpenKey API provided is just not known by people. And
right.
this is
So this is why I would like to find that out myself by trying together with you. Right. Okay. Maybe on a related note. So there was the request that we could surface the OpenKey results per squad in a single place. So a squad here meaning let's say equivalent to a certain team that has a certain tests component in focus. Maybe a certain product or a subset of products. For example, within Suse QE, where we have a team, let's say, caring about virtualization, and this team wants to take a look at all virtualization tests in both the products that are to be released that are currently in development, as well as in various service packs in maintenance. So for that, we collected multiple ideas, and we closed that original epic, which I see sufficiently covered with the OpenQA review tool, which is already there and which is possible to use, and we can run GitLab CI pipelines to generate the reports on a periodic basis if you don't want to do that on your workstation or on your environment, as well as the API examples, which are also which I mentioned in this case, which can also help. And this very much, of course, depends on the specific teams as well as persons' preferences. Some people just like to integrate stuff into a command line interface, and some others prefer a web page, and maybe some others prefer an email report. And all of the three use cases I see covered in general. Of course, there's always potential to improve something, and we are open for that. This is why, based on that epic, I split out an epic which is called Make the Review for Squads Even Easier. And this is where we collect some more fancy future ideas, and we can also mention that later then about the plans. But in short, this is what I see possible right now, and the other stuff is for later, which I don't expect in the near future, but rather in the mid or far future. Now this is kind of an support for archive jobs. This can be an interesting teaser. So what we started there is a spike solution, and the spike solution is about supporting that we move individual job results to another storage place. Think about, we have some data that we can and like to store on fast but limited and expensive storage, and then there's some other data, some OpenQA job results or overview of complete builds that you would like to store for longer. You can't store them all on that expensive and fast storage, so we can either delete it. This is what we do now. If we're running out of storage capabilities, we delete them. Or, and this is then what we would like to do as the full feature in the future, is that we can move that these jobs to another kind of storage. Let's say some rotating disks which provide more capacity per price, but being a bit slower. So then you would still be able to access these results over the OpenQA web UI as well as over the API, but it just takes a bit longer. The result of the spike solution, which was time boxed to 18 hours, is that we have the open points that we had about the implementation and the implications of how to be presented to the user fleshed out in individual stories, and then we can continue with the work and also provide a showcase for haven't looked at the audience in detail, but I assume that most are Suse employees that would like to see that in action within OpenQA SUSE. So this is where we also have a host prepared where we can show that. Now, non-Suse features is, or kind of, is that the Debian instance of OpenQA wanted to use a different authentication method using Salsa Debian org, which is a single sign-on instance using OAuth 2. We already had support with that built in, and this was now using a different instance. So we made sure that we can also use it. Chris, you can remind me, it was working with GitHub in before. And now we extended that so that it's more easily and also document how to do that for other services, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, It's usually it's a couple specifics in the spec. It's not enough to be truly agnostic, but there's a couple fields you need to extend, which in Perl is basically a hash that has the respective values needed.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then there are two tickets. If any of you took a look into vars JSON files recently, then you might have noticed that some paths we have from previously absolute paths, which were referring to the specific workers that jobs had been running on, generalized so that they use relative paths now. That was not a problem in before when you wanted to clone jobs from one worker to another or to a local instance, if the configuration is more or less the same, like if you clone from a caching worker to a caching worker. But the problem was if you were crossing configuration boundaries. And we also have one other idea in mind where we would like to switch to fully relative paths when we want to follow our saga about having full version control awareness within OpenK. So this is where we managed with a first feature switch, which was optional, to enable relative paths. Then for some time we monitored it, didn't realize any problems anymore, and then we switched on the feature by default, but you can still disable that in case that is a problem. Then, I'm not sure if I have mentioned that the last month already, could be, but we made the salt repository, which we use to manage the OpenK Suse DE infrastructure, public. So it's mirrored on GitHub. Plans for the future are to be able to provide contributions easily on GitHub so that it's not like just mirrored one way, but well, it's not like a one-way copy, but a full two-way sync. Yeah, we finished the epic to trigger auto review and OpenQA investigate jobs from within OpenQA when jobs incomplete or fail on O3 and OSD. That's an epic, and we split that into all the individual parts. There was auto review, there was OpenQA investigate for incomplete jobs as well as failed jobs on both O3 and OSD, and all of that is now completely covered. So now that can be used on both these instances. If you want to learn more about auto review and OpenQA investigate, we already conducted one workshop topic about that, and we have a recording for that. But I'm also happy to, I think it was the first workshop topic where we actually did a recording. I'm also enthusiastic about the topic, so if you would like to learn more, try it out, need some help, then I'm happy to help. All right. And then we did a return to top button on OpenK pages. So if you're on a lengthy page and, well, you could always use the keyboard and press pause 1. How is it called? Home. You can do that, but now there's also a nifty blue button which you can click, go to the top. And there's a link to first bad in investigation tab. This is really a minor feature, but it's also on the path to something bigger. I hope that most of you already know the OpenK investigation tab. On any failed job on the job details page, you can go to the investigation tab, and there you find the difference of the current failed job against the last good. For example, what test code changed, what needles changed, what changed in the configuration, what changed in the infrastructure. But the comparison is of the current failed job against the last good. It might be that, if you take a look after 3 weeks for the first time into a failed job, that a lot of differences pile up. And if you would like to know, so what was the actual delta between the first failed, the first bad job, how as we call it, there's a link. You can click that link. You go to the first the first bad in the same investigation tab, and then have a smaller difference. We have better error handling when reading API key and secret from a local configuration file, which we remind about, which we tell people you don't need to. What we see often is that people use the API key and API secret command line parameter, and then people sometimes make the mistake of copy pasting that with their private credentials into public channels. So it's always recommended to put that into a configuration file. And because we realize that people probably have problems with that because they like the command line parameters, this is where we try to improve the error handling, and we also improved the help text and the documentation. And we improved the documentation for redundant load balancing web UI deployments of OpenQA based on Docker Compose. So it's still experimental, but still we already improved the documentation. And the last thing is that OpenQA jobs can be triggered with single curl calls, so you don't necessarily need to, you previously could already use something like curl to read results, read only, but you needed to use the OpenQA client for authentication whenever you use writable operations like triggering a jobs, and that can be done with curl as well. Now, any spoken out questions regarding the achievements and things that we have done?
I have one question concerning the 91542, the API request.
Yep.
This is a bit of a generic question, but considering adding a query directly to the API, is this more complex compared to writing a JSON query for parsing the, let's say, the return JSON that can be more generic and has more generic results?
So you wonder if it's more complex to add an implementation to the OpenQA API than providing you with a shell snippet parsing the JSON output, or what do you mean?
Yeah. I'm asking if let's say for now we have a JSON query, and that's a good, let's say, prototype, but I'm wondering how complex is it to then this be implemented in the API?
Right. So two things that we should consider there, and likely there are more things. One thing is, for an API, we need to consider a proper stable API with implementation of new roads, defining a standard, fixing that standard, and then eventually also deprecation of certain routes when they are not used anymore or not applicable anymore. This is why in general it's always more costly to implement something in the API, because we have a mature product here. And the second aspect is that offering something in the API makes sense if we have a big user base around that benefits from that. Of course, not all users, but at least let's say a sufficiently large user base, so that we say it makes sense to add something more to the API, because everything that we add is not only for us the additional maintenance effort, which I already described, for example, with the deprecation scheme, but also for the users, the additional overhead of, every API call adds one more to the list, which is already big. So people need to understand what this is about, or if it's not applicable to them, then it's also confusing and can take some time to skip over all the non-relevant parts. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So for more specific user scenarios, then querying is the way. So that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. I would say it also depends on how you want to use that, because providing some curl call with piping to JQ might work out for some expert users, but I see that as just a proof of concept for the most users. So there can be some tooling around on that level to provide something streamlined. For example, maybe just a single command line tool. Maybe in other cases there could be some other already existing tools, like for example Smelt for Suse maintenance, where that could be built in. And then of course, if that is not implemented in Bash with JCube but in Python, then one would use the Python or some filtering capabilities to work with that. Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Something else about the achievements?
First of all, a comment regarding API as a follow-up. One idea just came to my mind. I don't know. So I am agree with you that extending API in just for single user, this user have this requirements, another user have another requirements, and you will not create like API call per user to this certain user who can achieve his needs. But another workaround how to cover this might be setting up a replica of database and giving access to database.
Yes, very good point. For the users of OpenQA SUSE DE, we already have read-only access to the live database. So we have a user account that you can use to access the database, not providing access to all. For example, you can't read the credentials of users, but everything that you can access over the API for the same,
Really?
let's say a non-authenticated user, you can.
Where I can read about it more, what's the port, how to access it, because it's something which I would definitely use.
Okay, so let me make a note. I will note it down that actually we should, mention that on the wiki page.
Yeah. And was it announced somehow before where I missed this announcement, or?
I don't think you missed the announcement.
Okay.
We use that for monitoring and for gathering some generic metrics, as well as connecting. For example, there's a metabase instance within SUSE maintenance, which accessing the data over the same channel. So this is why we have introduced it, and
okay,
that can be used.
But good to know. I would definitely use it because now I am SSHing to the instance, then doing sudo, then doing Giga test switch, and then open PySQL to do what I need.
Yeah,
and
which is fine. It does the
fine,
jobs, but it's like multiple hoops. Yeah.
Yeah, it will save me a few steps on the road.
And it's a safety net because you you're less likely to delete the complete database. Yeah, right. Second thing.
Another thing is regarding this Epic providing the surface to the team. I plan to read it and probably will comment it, but just tell me if there is anyone was raising that it's at least for me it's related to user settings. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. So every squad needs to define the job groups and the scenarios and such which they are interested in.
Okay. And regarding archiving jobs, it's also really a needed feature. But I didn't get. You were more explaining what was the problem, but I didn't get if you find any solution or.
Support for archive jobs, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So keep in mind this is just a Spike solution. So we have a draft, but the feature isn't done yet. With the Spike solution, we have a good feeling that we have covered the risky areas that we had identified in before. So we have a good feeling of how much effort it is to cover the individual areas. That was the point.
Yeah, so bottom line, there is no out-of-the-box solution, but you just did some research and yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's close it here about the resolved ones. Now we can go to the midterm plan and the future. Sultan gone.
Yeah, thank you. Just referring back to quickly to the previous ticket, also what Anton asked about this Surface OpenQA results per squad in single phase. I think that Timo, correct me if I was wrong, if I understood this, but I think the most important thing is that the individuals, not necessarily the squad. So that if a test, I think the story would be that if a test fails, then the maintainer or the last person who committed it can be somehow informed. So even like, dashboard for the test developers individual. So I am Zoltan, I'm developer of 10, 20 tests. I have a personal dashboard. I go every morning and see that none of my tests failed on any jobs in the last time. So I can drink coffee and do hacking.
Yeah, more or less, although the maintainership is, there is the writer of the test, but the maintainership is within the squads. So the squad maintains all the tests that are within the domain. And there is no notification other than what we get in the current process from the CAM OpenQA review people for the maintenance jobs, and then we do it ourselves for the product QA, the reviewing and creating of tickets.
What do you mean with you do it yourself?
I mean, if I understand correctly, we review as a squad our own job group related to the product QA, the product in development, and create tickets if there is problems with the tests. While at the maintenance side, it's currently different, but heavily being discussed to make it a bit similar.
You mean like who takes a look at the job and who creates a ticket and who then works on fixing might differ, right?
Yeah. And Zoltan mentioned that the person who created the test fixes it, but it's more like the squad's job to find someone to fix the test.
Exactly, yeah. Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with Timo said, that I like more the idea of having as a point. Webcam does not work. As a point of contact, to me makes more sense to have a squad, since someone may be on vacation for half a month or be sick or change department, whatever. So it's easier to maintain if you have a squad as a point of contact. And then, of course, when you ping the squad, I don't know, in the Rocket channel, the one who is more expert into it might tackle the issue. But if it's not there, at least the squad who is overall is responsible can.
Okay, so let's say from a technical perspective, what we would like to offer is something that is flexible and independent of that certain aspect, so that you as team / individuals can decide that. So for example, with OpenQA Review, everyone can generate the report for themselves. You can also define it as a team to have a report which is published on a web page where you say like, this is the team's overview that works both with OpenQA Review. Another example would be still talking about existing stuff, using RabbitMQ, where you can define individual tests that you would like to be informed about, as well as having something that goes for the team based on a list. Okay. Now I would like to go to the plan, and I'm starting again with the top level view. So we have now 5 sagas that we currently work on, which honestly I think is a bit too much. So I would like to strip that down soon by saying none of the 5 sagas I have a good feeling that we can sufficiently complete them soon. But at least 1, probably 2, we need to delay for certain time so that we can get a bit more focus on certain things. And I know that the higher you go, the harder it gets to say we won't work on that for a certain thing, because of course there are certain use cases by always some people that would like to see progress. So, however, I would like to remind about them. So the first one is the detection of known failures for stable tests, easy test results review, and easy tracking of known issues. Examples that go in here are the investigation links that I mentioned in before. So the goal of that saga is really that whenever a job fails, it's pretty clear and an awesome interface to work with, so that you're happy to say, like, whenever a job fails, I'm happy to take a look, because then I will know exactly who should do what and what to do. Which includes that for most of the failures, maybe you are not even you don't even need to take a look, because it's already tracked when it's a known issue. The second saga, which is the most recent one, which you can also see at the number, is that we have SUSE maintenance QA workflows with fully automated testing, approval, and release. So that is the vision here, that we have workflows where we have, again, the wording fully automated testing, approval, and release, where you say, in the best case, no human needs to do anything except for doing this, this qualitative review of the overall state to say, I did not find anything wrong, all the tests passed, so we can have maintenance updates released. Now the third part is about scaling out. That means redundant load balancing deployments of OpenQA, easy containers, both for bigger infrastructures like containers and Kubernetes, as well as single user instances. This epic is about scaling up, efficient handling of large storage to be able to run current tests efficiently, but keep big archives of old results. I mentioned already that Spike solution to look into support for archive jobs. And then we have full version control awareness within OpenQA. So the vision is that OpenQA knows for all the tests that it comes from a Git repository, who did what. We can have the complete test schedules and configuration settings saved in one or multiple Git repositories. We can have that fully traceable and such. Of course, in that case, all the bits and the individual bits and pieces are already there in many cases. But it's not that OpenQA is fully aware of version control. The one example being that OS Audience Distri OpenSUSE, of course, is in a Git repository, and we do have support to run tests from a specified GIF ref spec, be it a branch, a tag, or just a commit hash. But the main checkout of OS Audience Distri OpenSUSE is still, let's say, controlled outside the control of OpenQA. Okay, any questions or comments regarding the sagas on the top level in general? Zoltan. So, Sultan, sorry, you're muted.
I'm an idiot. no news. So two questions. One is the last one. So that this maintenance QA workflow with fully automated testing, approval, and release. I think that it's not only maintenance QA thing. So I think it's a bit broader. I'm thinking about maybe you can phrase it. Maybe you can phrase it better. But I think fundamentally it means that running a test against any repository, any given. So give me any repository and I can run automatically tests and trigger actions on it. So that kind of like I would be happier to find a more abstract statement which would give the impression that it's not a particular use case what we are trying to corner. But do you understand?
Yeah, that is a good point. I struggled with that Saga. I mean, it has SUSE maintenance QA in the name, and the others don't have, so that is rather specific and
we should not use these specific use cases for that. I think it's we need to capture what does it mean in that context. I would take it offline. I would take it offline, but I think my point here is that APIC is not that specific. It's broader. But let's take it offline and we can discuss. The other thing is that maybe a more provocative question is that which I don't think that it's good to load the epics or the sagas too much. So to have, I think if you have 20 sagas, then it's wrong.
Yeah.
But I'd like to ask that which saga, that's provocative because I know none of them. Which saga captures the UX thing? So let's say that I would say that how do you capture a work item or a proposal which is targeting that I make OpenQA run cheaper, I make OpenQA run quicker, I make OpenQA run requiring less competence. So I would say that if you come to me and say that I want to work on this feature, I would ask that, okay, does it make OpenQA run cheaper, faster, or will it decrease the required competence? Because the third one is actually what I try to capture here.
Right. So in general, whenever we select a task to be part of our team's backlog, then it must be linked to one of these sagas.
Naturally. Yeah, now that's absolutely obvious and natural.
And the examples, I mean, the examples that you mentioned is that for anything that makes it easier for users of the web UI, most likely goes into that saga of detection of known failures for stable tests, easy test results review. If it's about the concept of I'm the administrator of an OpenQA instance, which of course could be the same person, so I would like to try out OpenQA myself because I also want to review the tests, but still it's like the admin perspective that goes into scaling out meaning also scale out to more users. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe it's the first one. If it were like a bit more abstract, that I think we should be explicit about that we have a high level goal that we want to make all these features be used. I mean, a good example is that the API which Ivan was picking that ticket.
Yeah.
Complete. Is it easy to use? Is it obvious? Maybe, I don't know, but that's and similar to many other features that it's like the classic mathematical thing that if a proof of a theory is not elegant enough, then it's not the right one. So are we answering those questions right? So that's why I would be very happy to recognize the improvement of UX or making life easier for entry level. I don't think I need to sell this. You know very well that the goal is to extend the user base and to be able to work that's maintenance QA or coordination or community members or anybody say that.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's what I would be, and I think the first one may capture it. It's just not explicit enough.
Okay. Good point. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. I just noted down.
I'm happy to contribute on polishing those out and
yeah, thank you. I
right.
will just note it down for now, and then you know, I will think about it myself, come back to you and such. So, was there another raise of hands?
Yes.
Go on.
Regarding also the Suse, first of all, regarding the Suse maintenance QA workflows, for me, it sounds like making from OpenQA a fully featured CI. Something like this?
Not necessarily. The saga means that we accomplish that vision in whatever way, okay? If there's already a tool which does most of the job and we just plug into that, then that means that OpenQA does not need to be a complete CI, okay?
Okay. And regarding full version control awareness, is it about putting, I don't know, test suits and all machines and flavors into Git
Yes.
in some way?
Yes. That means that also a complete OpenQA instance, with the exception of assets and test results, is reproducible from a single Git repository. So that's
from single Git repository.
Also from a single one, and multiples should be possible as well. In the end, of course, you can have Git submodules or subrepos in any Git repo, or we teach OpenQA. I mean, OpenQA already handles multiple Git repos like needles and tests separately. But think about a new product, a new user base, which say they want to use OpenQA. And for them, it should be possible to start with a single repository which has all the test definitions, the complete test schedule, and all the configuration at a single place.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Now, we didn't take a look into the details of individual stories. This is why I suggest that we will stop the workshop topic now on a bit higher level, and I would like to keep that in mind, that for the next time again we go into a bit more of the details of the midterm plan. However, if you like to discuss that in an even bit more open round, then I'm still around right now, but let's stop the workshop here. Thank you all.